Can I take professional designs created for hugely infamous brands such as Adidas and turn them into better, more effective examples of graphic design? Now you can be the judge of my 5 different Adidas designs and tell me if you think the surprising changes I'm going to make do result in a better outcome. Now it's great being able to show people how a design looks, but even more impressive if they can actually experience it too, and this leads to them understanding how it's going to behave. And so learn more about Framer later in today's video and how to show off your designs. So the first of 5 designs today is this poster, which is the Rise Above advertising campaign. Now if you're watching this video, you're probably a graphic designer or you're someone who's interested in graphic design, so please tell me, what do you think is wrong about this design and where can it be improved? Or at least just think to yourself what improvements you'd like to make and make a mental note of these improvements. Now one of the first things I noticed about this design that I didn't like was how different parts of the poster were spread out. I mean, different parts of the information were not actually clumped together in proximity. This creates a disjointed design layout and it's not visually appealing and it's not user friendly either. Also, I really found this pretty amateurish where they've used basketballs as bullet points for these 2 points here. It's way too obvious, it's way too cliche, and I think it's just an amateurish decision on the designer's part. But yeah, the main issue for me with this design was this space between the different text areas, which again just is bad use of proximity. So when I recreated this design, I started with a blank canvas pretty much, and I did want to get rid of the background kind of court that was in the original design, and you will soon see why. I really wanted to give the Rise Above quote some emphasis and some oomph, so I really put that in a bold uppercase solution, and I've used some contrasting colour sampling a red from the Chicago Bulls jersey. And hammering home the point of proximity, I've gone ahead and lumped every text solution in one simple area up here in the top right. And then keeping things balanced and in line, the logo was put at the bottom right. But at this point, I felt like it wasn't finished and there was something missing. Yes, that background basketball court image isn't on my design, but I did have a solution to fill up this space and still make it negative space, so to speak. I took the Adidas 3 lines symbol and I placed it here in a lighter colour. I'm not sure why my video render it kind of comes out a bit blotchy, but I do like this shape here as it does resemble moving upwards, which leads to that Rise Above quote and falls in line with the basketball player actually jumping upwards. So as you can see side by side, here's the original and then here's my redesign. And furthermore, checking them both out in real life situations, we can see how one of them is effective and one of them isn't. This mock-up did have some black lines at the top and the bottom, but you can get the picture, quite literally. So the second Adidas design is a Yeezy advert, which to be fair, isn't that bad, actually it's pretty good. I don't think this design does too many things wrong. I like the minimal layouts and I like how, it flows pretty well as well. There's some balance going on from the left to the right. But I don't like the gradient being used on Yeezy in this way. Yeah, it's just a personal preference, but I do feel like I could take this design and elevate it a tiny bit more. So I started off again with a kind of a blank canvas, and I wanted to soften up the trainer itself and kind of give it a dream heavenly appearance. You might notice I removed all shadows and I've made the background completely white. And again, this is just personal preference. I really liked this approach by putting Yeezy in bold sans serif lettering behind the trainer in this way. I just think it flows really well and it gives some kind of context to the trainer itself. I also think it's a very nice dividing line horizontally across the design. And instead of going huge on the Yeezy text, I wanted to go a bit more minimal, and so I've put it in the bottom right in a smaller size to the original. And I think this is where the kicker of my design comes in, because I've used an orange focal point to emphasize the boost part of this design, which is of course the model of the shoe. Now I think this touch works really, really well, and this design for me worked out amazingly well. And then to finish off, we have the Adidas logo in the top left to finish off the balance part of the design. And here's the before and then here's the after. And like I said, the original wasn't a bad design, I just thought I could improve it using my own style and my own kind of perspective on things. And here we have the design mocked up in a real life situation. So design number 3 is a very vibrant design, and it's in Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish, but hey, we're going to run with it anyway. But what do you guys not like about this design when you look at it? What would you change and what would you work on? For me, firstly, the text at the bottom seems too cramped and it just doesn't seem well thought out, to be honest. It doesn't read well, and that's not just because it's Spanish, but the main issue for me is that it's cramped down here just below the shoe. Now, I do like this concept of using those 3 lines from the Adidas brand, but in this instance I think it's too overpowering, mainly because firstly it's black, which is very stark on the contrast of this design, and I think that black does kind of compete with the text below and also the trainer itself, but also just the sheer size of it. I mainly want the trainer to be the focal point and any kind of lines in this way to just complement the design. So we're going back to my blank canvas approach and we're starting off with just the trainer that I kind of do want to be more or less the focal point. And again, I'm not Spanish and I can't read Spanish, and I did use Google Translate to come up with an approach for this text layout. So I thought this was the first part of the sentence, and I think this would be the best approach in my opinion. We then use some hierarchy in size and also color for the final part of this sentence. Notice how my text is pretty much the same size or takes up the same amount of room as the original, but because it's above the trainer in a bigger space, it has more room to breathe, and so the design as a whole has more room to breathe. And then finally below, I've used the Adidas logo and also those lines in a more discreet and more minimal approach. Every designer has a style they bring to the table when it comes to a project, and for me, my style is more minimal and more discreet in some respects. And that's how I prefer to use such elements as the 3 lines for the brand in this instance. And here you can see side by side, it does really hit home how much more room there is to breathe on my design, which is always going to be a more user-friendly and a more welcoming approach to a design concept. And I really loved how this one looks mocked up on a real life situation. I think I might like this one the most out of every design I worked on for this video. So the fourth and the final design today is a pretty weird one, and it's one of the most odd Adidas adverts I've ever seen. Yes, it's in black and white, and it does look very, very retro indeed, and I wanted to make sure I kept with the concept of having a grayscale design. But for me, the issue here was the typography. I do understand the concept that the athlete is kind of breaking free of the text and breaking free of the impossible, but I do think it's too convoluted and it's too spread out, and it doesn't look visually appealing. And for my redesign, I didn't actually use the same athlete or the same poster design, because it would take me forever in Photoshop to kind of redesign this athlete as the text is in the way. So I just grabbed a different badminton player and placed them on my design. And granted, this guy hasn't got as much movement and as much power as the original one, and also the sizing is off, but you kind of get my concept. Firstly, as in the original design, the model, or the athlete, sorry, is kind of tilting from bottom left up to upper right. Their body is angled in this way. And so I wanted to get some typography that complemented that, and of course, italics will work perfectly here. Also, I took note that the Adidas logo in this instance has those 3 lines horizontally, and I think having text and also some lines above and below do complement that, and it does set a standard or precedent for this design. And yes, the main issue for me was having the text in the original too spread out and too convoluted, so I've gathered things in one orderly middle section that I feel does work really well. But yeah, this is probably the weakest out of the 4 that I've designed today, but give me your impressions and your opinions down below. And the winners of the previous contest of redesigning an existing design will be announced on Friday, and that's when I'm going to announce the new contest as well, so stay tuned for that on Friday. Now, interactive prototyping is the best way to communicate your app and your website designs. The sponsor of today's video, Framer, is a no-code, free-to-use tool making it easy for anyone to become a prototyper. So you can import your existing work and quickly swap out your static elements for pre-built interactive components. This includes things like sliders that actually do slide and inputs that can be filled, as well as buttons that can actually be clicked. Building out a full user flow is super simple as well. You can just link screens, buttons, and menu items, and pretty soon you will have a prototype that clearly communicates your vision to whoever you want to show it to. Now sign up for free by visiting framer.com/Satori. That link is down in the description box below, so do give it a try if you are a web or app developer.